Welcome to episode 58 of Legally Contented. I'm your host, Wayne Pollock. This is another Lowdown episode where we review highlights and tease out takeaways from our 5 most recent interview episodes. In this episode, we're looking back at episode 47 with Hilary Bricken, episode 50 with David Zetoony, episode 52 with Ethan Ostroff, episode 54 with Lisa Stam, and episode 56 with Jordan Ostroff. A reminder about this podcast. The podcast is meant to do 2 things. 1, spotlight the lawyers, the law firms, and the companies serving the legal industry who are doing big things with their content marketing and thought leadership marketing efforts, and educating lawyers and in-house marketers about the best practices in content marketing and thought leadership marketing at law firms and companies serving the legal industry so that they and their colleagues can do big things with their own content marketing and thought leadership marketing efforts. Okay, let's get going with our recap of these 5 episodes. Episode 47 was with Hilary Bricken. Hilary Bricken is a named partner at Harris Bricken. She is a Chambers Band 1 cannabis lawyer. For those of you who don't know, Chambers is a fairly prestigious corporate law ranking system, award system, where law firms and lawyers want to very much be Chambers ranked and be in Band 1, 2, or 3. Obviously, Band 1 is best, but Band 2, Band 3, even Band 4, people would love to get into because it gives the sense that they are prestigious and prominent within their legal practice. Hilary is one of the premier cannabis business and regulatory attorneys in the U.S., and one of the ways that she got there is through her Canna Law blog, which started at this point about a decade ago. And through the law blog, the Canna Law blog, she was able to build her authority, to build her prominence, and combining that with hustle, she was able to create this practice out of thin air because there wasn't much cannabis, if any, cannabis law being practiced back in 2013. She was able to build this from thin air and get her name on the door of her law firm. Think about that. Not only did she become a rainmaker and build a practice, but she did such a good job of it and became so prominent that her law firm put her name on the door, the law firm that she's been at since 2010. In this episode, Hilary and I covered a number of topics, including what makes for an effective law firm blog covering an industry, how to build systems and processes for a blog with multiple authors, how to get associates involved in thought leadership content creation, thought leadership as a recruitment tool, and a number of other things. In this first clip, I want you to hear how Hilary discusses the importance of listening to your audience.
You got to listen to your readership. And once you get really good, your readership is going to get very vocal. And that's actually helpful to you. We take all critiques, criticisms, positive comments, and digest it and say, what should we be doing better? What should we not do? And another example, psychedelics are blowing up, right? Everybody knows about psilocybin this and MDMA that or ketamine this. And we have a piece of that within the firm because it's part of that emerging area that really is new drug development and health and wellness. It's right up our alley. And we tried to put some psychedelics law posts on the Canna Law blog. Canna Law blog readership did not want that. They do not like that. They wanted all cannabis all the time. Do not distract me with your other practice areas. So now we have a psychedelics law blog specifically for that. But if you're just writing to write and to be a first mover and say, hey, look, we were on this, we thought about it for 30 seconds, I think it actually might hurt you unless you're brand name big law. And then it's unquestionable, right, that you've got the best working behind you. But for everybody else, I think if you're going to do it, you need to do it well. It's got to be thoughtful. And it's got to be something that's going to make readers go, wow, I didn't even consider that. Not just the news. They can read that pretty much anywhere from any layperson. There's no value in that.
As Hilary makes clear, it's important to remember that content isn't a one-way street. If we want to build a relationship, we want to build a following, we want people to follow our content for the long term and eventually come to us to purchase our services, to retain us as their counsel or their consultant or whomever, we've got to understand what they want to see out of our content and give them what they're looking for. It's a two-way street. Take that feedback, tweak the content, and make it more sticky, make it more appealing because you're getting, like a cheat code, you're getting the inside scoop from your audience in terms of what they want to see in the form of the content, frequency, the scope, the form, all that good stuff. In the second clip, Hilary talks about how the Canna Law blog helped her grease her business development skids.
We'll get people that specifically email the authors of a post to say, I saw you wrote about this, and I particularly have this issue. Can we talk? That's probably the most standard one. Then we'll get the more cantankerous person that says, I saw you wrote about this, and I don't agree with it. And you try to turn that right into a sale, depending on what they have going on in person. Probably less so now post pandemic, but you'll get people that say, I want to know about this. What does your firm do about this? And literally in an email, you can link to your knowledge base, right? And that's the important thing, at least for me when I've done my pitching. You have to demonstrate some kind of knowledge and expertise, right? Within the pattern that the potential client is giving you to show that you have value. Without that, they'll never hire you. And without that in the form of a blog post or something in written format or something they can go to, equally, they'll probably never hire you. So I use it all the time. And especially for those inquiries where I've seen it 1,000 times, I don't have to give the pitch on the phone and waste my time. I can vet them out very easily. I send them a link to the post. They'll digest it and come back to me, or they won't. And then I won't have wasted my time on an in-person pitch.
Okay, 2 takeaways from the conversation here with Hilary is, one, you can build a practice around a blog, and we'll hear more about that later on in this recap. You can build a practice around a piece of content, around an ongoing content project like a blog. It was the Kind of Law blog and her hustle that got her to build her practice. It helped build her credibility, and it helped scale up for marketing. Another takeaway is that content isn't just a one-to-many tool. It's a one-to-one tool. When you actually are having a conversation with a prospective client or a referral source, being able to point them to a particular piece of content that is exactly on point for their problem, that's selling yourself without selling yourself. That is showing, that is proving that you are the right person for them because you've got content already written about, or you have content already created, whether it's a podcast or video, about the issue they're facing. Of course, you're knowledgeable and wise. You are the go-to person. You've already thought about this problem. It sends a strong signal to that prospective client or referral source that they should be hiring you because you know what you're talking about. You've got the goods to help them with their legal or their business issue. Next up, episode 50 with David Zetoony. David is the co-chair of the U.S. Data Privacy and Cybersecurity Practice at Greenberg Traurig, which is one of the largest law firms in the world. Huge law firm. But I had David on because he is a prolific writer. He creates upwards of 200 articles a year regarding cybersecurity and data privacy. Again, 200 articles a year as the co-chair of a department at a large, super large law firm who also has clients and family and everything else going on that you would expect an adult to have going on who's trying to balance work and life. He also wrote a book about thought leadership and the use of thought leadership in building a book of business. It's called Building a Law Practice One Article at a Time. It's published by the American Bar Association. In this episode, David and I talked a lot about systems and processes that attorneys can put into place to make themselves prolific without having to spend more time than is necessary. We talked about how content is a client service tool as much as it is a marketing and business development tool. We talked about David's process for writing 200 articles a year. We talked about why tying your thought leadership content to news articles makes it less valuable. We talked about what lawyers get wrong about how thought leadership is supposed to work. We talked about why content that doesn't take a position reflects poorly on the attorney writing it. And we talked about why attorneys shouldn't hand off their thought leadership content drafting to associates. In this first clip, you'll hear David explain why he thinks attorneys should be prolific with their content creation.
I think that was a realization for me, is if you're going to sell something, and this goes to the quantity, why do I write 200 articles a year? I know that's extreme. I'm under no pretense about it. But I remember, some people saying, well, do you just do 1 or 2 or 3? That's it. Check the box. That'd be like going to Costco and every year they give out 2 or 3 samples and they think, hey, why aren't we getting repeat business? No, that's not how it works, right? It works because you are constantly giving out new products. You're constantly giving out, try this, try this, try this, and exposing people to the variety of stuff that you can offer them. That's how it works. That's how Costco sells new products. I do think quantity is essential. And to your point, you also have to show them what they're buying. And you have to show them, this is how I think. This is the type of analysis you're going to get. For those people who said, hey, that's giving away the milk for free, don't do it, they should be calling us up. I have 2 or 3 responses to that. Number one is I don't want my phone ringing off the hook for people who have 1 or 2 minute questions that I can just shoot out an email or do an article and just solve for them. It's inefficient. That's not what I'm going for. I'm going for the fact that people know that I know the answers to these things. So when they have the bigger question, the one that can't be solved by reading a 30-second article, that they pick up the phone and they say, this guy knows what he's talking about. I know he knows what he's talking about because I've read all of his pieces going along, and now I've got a problem I really need him to address. That's far more valuable business to me. It's just more efficient. So that's part of it. The other part of it is just as a partner, as a shareholder at Greenberg Traurig, I would like a lot of different clients with different issues coming to me. If I'm putting out little tiny fires about basic issues all day long, I'm not going to have 100 clients. I'm going to have 5 clients because I'm going to have to respond to the same thing over and over and over on these 5 clients. If I can, again, address the needs of the 100, it kind of opens up the stable. It's more clients and more companies that trust me, understand what I know, and more opportunities for them to kind of bring more complex issues to my attention.
Okay, so we know we should be prolific with our content, but where do we get the inspiration? Where are we going to be able to get a reliable flow, a reliable stream of possible topics? Well, in this clip, David talks about why clients hold the key to lawyers' content creation.
Yes, the genesis of an idea, it's the simplest thing ever. There's no secret to it, right? My clients give me the ideas to write almost all the time. I'd say 80% of the time, 90% of the time. And I have a personal rule. I don't know if I put it in the book. I probably did. I talk a lot about the rule of 3s in the book. I have a lot of rules of 3s. So one of my rules of 3s is if 3 clients ask me the same question the same week, I've got to write an article on it. Because it means if I've got 3 clients asking me that question, I've got 300 clients who have the same question in the back of their head. And they either haven't asked me, they're going to ask me, or they're going to ask another law firm. And so if I get the same question, definitely on the same day, which happens all the time, but in the same week, I get 3 clients who just ask me the same issue. I write it on the board behind me, and I write an article on it, and I'll send it out. Not just to my clients, but I'll publish it, and therefore the answer is out there. You'd be shocked at how much content that generates. If you start thinking that way of the best source for finding the best topics are your clients, because they'll tell you what's relevant to you, you will never be at a loss for what to write on. It just keeps going and going because your clients will keep having questions that they bring to you. So that's the start for me in terms of the idea generation. If you also follow that kind of thought process and say, look, my clients are going to drive what I write about. And if 3 clients ask me the same question, I should write an article. Well, if you've already answered the question 3 times to 3 different clients, you're already halfway to writing the article, right? You've already had to explain what the issue is. Obviously you're not going to take any privileged information a client gave you, but 3 clients ask you the same thing on the same statute or law or case. You've probably had to respond to them. Take that response, and now you've got 40, 50% of what you're going to structure into an article and you're going to publish to others. You're halfway through the writing process. And all of it is without lifting a finger, really, right? Your clients brought you the idea. You've already responded to your clients as part of good client service with the answer. And you're 50% of the way to writing without taking 1 non-billable hour. Now, the rest of it, you have to flesh out. You got to structure. It's different responding to a client in an email than it is publishing an article. But a lot of what my book talks about is how you make that process really efficient as well, so that you're not looking at 5 hours or 10 hours or even 2 hours to write an article. You're looking at 30 minutes or an hour and a half at max to try to go from inception of idea to final product and then pushing it out.
Okay, so we have our systems and our processes. We know that we have our clients' issues and problems and concerns fueling and inspiring our content. But what should we be thinking about thought leadership in terms of a short-term or long-term play? In this clip, David explains why thought leadership is a long game and why attorneys don't appreciate that.
Look, I've mentored associates throughout my career and other attorneys who are not my associates, but who want to do writing. And one of the biggest problems I see is this misaligned expectation. I wrote 2 articles and I got no business, right? And therefore I'm not going to write again. It's not worth my time. And part of that is they just don't understand how it works, how business development works when it comes to expertise-driven writing. If I had to draw an analogy, I'd say it's like a savings account. So, if you want to live off your interest and you want to become, independently wealthy, you don't do that by putting some money into a savings account and then just quitting your job, right? You put money in every month, and every month it'll generate more interest. And it's that compound interest. As it generates more interest and more interest and more interest, after a while, you're going to have a lot of money there. It's the same for article writing. So very rarely will you write one article, put it out, and then you're going to get some kind of client that comes back. It happens. More often, this is like putting money into a savings account. Piece after piece after piece. You put 100 articles into that savings account, each article generating interest, each article kind of building on itself. That's when you start getting more clients. And a lot of times, sometimes the client will actually email me and say, hey, I read this article. I want to talk to you. Let's set up a time, and I want to investigate retaining you. A lot of times, it's not linked to one article. I'll get emails that'll say, I've been reading you for the past 3 or 4 years on ad tech or data privacy or GDPR. I've never had a reason to reach out to you, but now I do. And I was just wondering if we could schedule some time to talk. So it's not one article, right? It's the compendium. Like, it's the overall ethos that they've seen your name out there and that you've just kind of inundated the market. That happens to me far more often than I read one article and I'm going to call you. And the other part of it is, even when I do, and I have one that came in yesterday or the day before, I did read your article and now I'm going to call you. It's not an article I wrote last week. They read an article I wrote 4 years ago. So again, part of it is this concept of you publish and you don't know when it's going to come back. You don't know when it comes back, whether it'll be tied to one article or multiple articles. And you just have to realize that over time, you're going to build up this kind of wealth of expertise and wealth of recognition, and it will pay dividends without a doubt. But you've really got to invest in it, and you've really got to kind of put in that effort and get a significant quantity out there into the market.
Okay, 2 main takeaways from my conversation with David. 1, you can be prolific by structuring your content creation and listening to your clients, by building a system for creating content and getting inspiration for future content. You can reduce the amount of time that you spend on it while increasing your output. It's a fascinating study in contrast. You would think that you wouldn't get the benefits of both. You can spend less time and create more content by structuring your processes and working out a system for how to do it day in, day out, week in and week out. Second takeaway, thought leadership is a long-term play, and a lot of attorneys don't want it to be. They want it to be short. They want it to be like direct marketing. Click here for a consultation. Click here, download this ebook. You have to understand that thought leadership takes time. Over time, you are coming across to your target audiences as the person they should go to for whatever area of law you practice, because you seem to know what you're talking about time and time again, but it's not a short-term play. It's a long-term play. It takes months, if not years, to fully develop your thought leadership, your authority, and your prominence, and to have that return on investment, to have that content start bearing fruit based on what you've been doing over the previous months and years. Next up, Ethan Ostroff, episode 52. Ethan is the founder of Ethan Ostroff Law. He does mass torts for most of his practice. He was the 3rd attorney to produce content on TikTok. He published his first video back in October 2019. And as of the date that his episode first aired, Ethan has over 213,000 followers on TikTok. He also has a knack for social media marketing. Within the first 15 months of launching his law firm, Ethan generated over 12,000 leads. In this episode, Ethan and I discussed, among other things, why attorneys have to accept they're going to be judged when they publish content on social media, the mix of video content attorneys should be publishing on social media, the importance of a team-based approach to content, and the interplay between organic social media content and paid social media content. In this first clip, Ethan talks about why social media today is table stakes and why it is like a website was 5-10 years ago in terms of attorneys getting out there and attracting clients.
Everybody watching this, if you're not on social media, you're late. I'm just making that clear. You're not early anymore. You're late now. So now you're just keeping up. Typically in a client research process, a millennial research process specifically, who are, going to be soon the most populated part of our planet. A millennial won't just, see a billboard and convert. They will not. They will go and check out your website, see how many Google reviews you have. Great. That's layer 1. Then they'll pop on an Instagram, see if you exist. If you don't have a presence at all, or if it's too template cookie cutter, they won't hire you anymore. So social media, organic social media is required now. It's required like a website was 5 years ago. If you don't have a website right now, it's like, what are you doing? But if you have a website and you don't have an Instagram, you don't have a TikTok, you don't have a YouTube, in a year from today, it's going to be like not having a website feels right now. So, you can't, the old theory of like, if you do good work, clients will come. No, if you are where eyeballs are, clients will come. I can tell you as a 30-year-old who started their own practice, has been a part of a big content generation firm who has generated tons of clients. I would not be generating the amount of cases or have 100 Google reviews of 5 stars if I was not in people's face all the time consistently. So it's almost like if you aren't on social right now, you're not only just falling behind, you're becoming kind of like a scary option for someone to hire, because you just need a baseline of social media exposure to just not look like, a hole in the closet law firm.
One of the things that Ethan and I discussed in our conversation is the key difference between YouTube and TikTok that few attorneys realize. I didn't really appreciate the difference the way that Ethan described it, but in this clip, Ethan talks about that difference and why it's important that attorneys understand what YouTube videos are best at and what TikTok videos are best at.
What you got to keep in mind is that YouTube is more of an SEO play than it is a video play. Yes, if you have a video that people engage with and organically struck gold on what not to say to an insurance company, and it goes viral, which won't happen as your expectation, just so you know, that is more of an SEO play. Your goal on YouTube, specifically YouTube, is to get monetized. Once you get monetized, then you start showing up in the suggested search. If your descriptions on your videos don't have the right keywords, no one will see your videos, because YouTube is the second most searched platform on the planet. So the goal is for people to land on your videos. Whereas with TikTok, people are not intending to see your content. They just happen to maybe interact with some similar things. So TikTok pushes yours to theirs. There is no intent on that topic. So short form video is the quickest thing to get started. Pure value driving. Do not ask for someone to hire you. That's the easiest place to start. You should repurpose that content on all the platforms: YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook, TikTok. Repurpose that same content on those 4 things. YouTube, unless you have an in-house SEO researcher, you should not stress about doing long-form content. That's a much bigger production. As you can tell, I have a room for it.
Yeah.
In terms of B2B, though, I would be focused on LinkedIn. LinkedIn written word content. LinkedIn is not a video platform. If you notice, I did not say to post your stuff on there. Wayne does a good job of it because he has the keywords around it for it to rank the right way. But generally speaking, LinkedIn is more written word and engagement through the written word. So in terms of how you do B2B marketing, I would be writing thought-provoking pieces of content. And this might be a more comfortable starting place for people who don't want to necessarily be on camera.
Okay. 2 takeaways from my conversation with Ethan. 1, social media can be both a branding play and a lead generation play. You can use your social media to help build your brand and get people to know you, like you, and trust you, and make them feel like you are someone who could help them because they get a feel of who you are, the things you stand for, what you enjoy doing, your beliefs, your values. All of that good stuff can build your brand in the eyes of your potential clients and referral sources. But it could also be a lead generation play. You getting out there and you explaining certain issues of law, certain questions that they might have, answering certain questions they might have, putting out an ebook, putting out an email course, a video course, getting people to raise their hand based on your social media, whether it's advertising or whether it's organic social media, and say, hey, I am someone who might need your help. Market to me. follow up with me. Social media is great because it can be a branding play and a lead generation play in the same platform, just used differently. And then on a related note, second takeaway is that different media channels require different approaches and different content. As Ethan talked about with TikTok and YouTube, there are benefits to YouTube that you might not get from TikTok. TikTok is more of a discovery platform. YouTube is more in-depth, almost an SEO type platform. So understanding what you want out of those platforms, understanding what those platforms can give you, and then crafting content that matches those platforms. That's the way to succeed with social media. Next up, episode 54 with Lisa Stam. Lisa is the founder and managing partner of Spring Law, a Canadian boutique law firm that practices exclusively in employment, labor, and human rights law. At the center of the firm's marketing efforts is the Employment and Human Rights Law in Canada blog, which Lisa launched while she was an associate at Baker McKenzie, which is one of the largest law firms in the world. Now, she had this blog, but this was so early on. This was like late aughts, early 2010s, so early on that Baker McKenzie, again, a sophisticated, huge law firm, wanted her to handle the blog herself and do it in her personal capacity, not as an associate at the firm. What did that mean? Well, she was able to bring that blog with her when she left the firm. All the branding, all the SEO, all the authority she developed, she was able to take with her, which is so rare these days, and was probably rare back then. But with this stroke of good luck, she was able to take that blog and then build Spring Law around that blog and her other content marketing efforts. In this episode, Lisa and I talked about a number of things, including why she launched a virtual law firm, the three-pronged marketing strategy she has that has taken her firm from one lawyer when she launched to 9 in 6 short years, newsjacking versus evergreen content, how a team-based approach can amplify a law firm's content efforts, and a number of other topics regarding content marketing and thought leadership marketing. In this first clip, Lisa describes why blogging is the most efficient method of marketing in her view, and the advantages it has over old school, in-person marketing efforts.
I enjoy business development. I'm pretty good at it, but also early on, I saw that blogging is way more efficient. I can do it in between everything. The alternative is going to another golf tournament that eats up all of Saturday, or, another cocktail party where you hate everybody in the room. I just found it way more efficient to hammer out a 1-hour blog post than that's the drive just to the golf tournament, right? If people say they don't have time to blog, then they're not doing anything then, because how can you not have time to blog? It's actually the most efficient thing to do. So you just have to have content out there. It has to be content marketing. I remember having this conversation when I was at the big firm around, there'd be a ton of time spent having client webinars client sessions. And there was a really big emphasis and value and importance put on doing it always in person, having them come into the office and getting bums in seats. You'd hear that all the time. And so you'd have the whole marketing department involved. You'd had a couple of associates doing the slide deck. You'd have all the partners vetting it and reviewing it, and then going back, like the amount of time, and then all the invites, the time that goes into getting maybe 40 people show up back in, 2008, 9, 10. And then these people probably not being any sort of decision maker. They're just looking for a morning off, to come and hang out. I showed the head of the group at that point, here's one blog post I did in an hour and a half, let's say. I tweeted it out, but 5 or 6 other people tweeted it. And I wrote down the number of eyeballs that would have seen that tweet about my blog post. And it was something like 14,000. I lucked out that day because I had a couple of people that had really big followings tweeted out. So I had that many people look at one blog post, and it took me an hour of work versus all the time it took to get maybe 3, mostly not decision makers, come into the firm. It just made no sense to me. Content is just such a much more efficient way to market.
So sorry in advance, Lisa's not going to take you up on your golf tournament invitations, but she'll be happy to blog and use content marketing to build her practice and continue building her law firm. In the second clip, Lisa talks about building a culture of marketing and business development at the firm and making it clear that everyone shares in the content marketing efforts and the fruits of that labor?
Our firm culture, the number one value that we have internally is a growth mindset and innovative. But number two is collaborative. Everything needs to be collaborative in our firm. No silos. We help each other. We collectively amplify each other. So the marketing piece, really, we all share. Everybody on the team, every lawyer is expected to post. And as we keep growing, it gets less and less. So that's easier. And then we have a monthly webinar, and everyone takes their turn on that as well. I think some people just love it more than others. You will never get away from that. And some people are better at it than others. I always think of all of this as just, how do I reach more people to help them? I really believe in how we're delivering our legal services and all our innovative stuff, and really reverse engineering the whole experience so that everyone has just a very different client journey at our firm. I love talking about it. So I've never seen it as sales or trying to upsell anyone. If anything, I try and downsell people because I don't want them to be spending more than they can. And so we do have lots of conversations about this, and it is written into everyone's contract that they are to participate in the firm's blog and webinars, those two things in particular. And I haven't had any pushback. I mean, not to my face, at least. The alternative is, again, that they go out there and do all this pounding the pavement inefficiently. And this allows people to get their own profile online. They take it with them when they leave the firm, right? These are all individual opportunities too. So I haven't actually had any pushback because I hope I'm conveying all the benefits of just doing this in a collective way within a firm.
Two takeaways from my conversation with Lisa. First, for many people, content creation as a primary marketing driver could be a better fit for their lives than cocktail hours and sporting events and golf tournaments and whatever else. Because it's so efficient, it allows people to start marketing themselves from the comfort of their own home, from their office. They need not run out and spend 4 or 5 hours a night meeting and greeting people, shaking hands, having rubber chicken dinners, and the like. Now, obviously, there's a time and place for all of that in-person communications, all that in-person meeting and networking. But in terms of the long haul, content creation is more efficient. You can do it more often over time than you can with your cocktail hours and your in-person events. Second takeaway is that content creation can be ingrained in your firm if you're intentional about doing so. If you require associates to participate, if you make it clear that if you participate, if the whole team participates in the blog, in the video series, in the podcasts, you only have to do one a month or one every 2 or 3 months instead of one every week, because you are spreading out the love, you're spreading the burden out. Yet everyone benefits. If you are out there marketing yourself as part of your firm and you're doing one blog every few weeks, you build your prominence along with the law firm's prominence. You build your authority along with the law firm's authority. So it really is a rising tide that can lift all boats when the law firm owners believe in content creation and thought leadership marketing as a main marketing driver and are smart enough to make sure that they bring in their associates and other attorneys and other partners into the process. Okay, last episode we're recapping on this Lowdown episode is episode 56 with Jordan Ostroff. Jordan is the founder of Driven Law, which is a small personal injury firm in Orlando, Florida, and Legal Ease Marketing, which is a marketing firm serving solo and small law firms. As you might be able to tell if you ever see a photo of Jordan in his uniform of a Hawaiian shirt, khaki shorts, and flip-flops, Jordan injects his personality into all of his content and bucks the trend of the stuffy lawyer whose marketing efforts are uninspired, plain vanilla, and just boring. In this episode, he and I covered a lot of aspects of the personalization of content marketing and thought leadership marketing, but not personalized to the recipient of the content, but personalized from the view of the lawyer actually creating the content and communicating with those prospective clients and referral sources. We talked about the importance of offline marketing in today's digital marketing dominated world. We talked about why lawyers need to be comfortable saying no to clients who are not a good fit for them. We talked about why attorneys might want to niche down to a specific client type instead of niching down to a specific case type. We talked about why lawyers should own what sets them apart from the crowd, why vanilla marketing is a terrible choice for law firms, and the philosophy that will help you consistently create content. In this first clip, I asked Jordan, how can attorneys find their voice, their special personal voice, when it comes to communicating with clients and referral sources through the various marketing channels that those attorneys might employ?
Great question. Here's how I would start. I would make a list of your all-time favorite clients. Hopefully you have like 5 or 10 clients that you loved working with. Look at how they found you. If 80% of those clients found you through the same channel, whether that was a referral source or the specific referral source, whether it was an organization that you're in, whether it was through Google Ads, you're probably on the right track about what makes sense for you. And then I'd look at what do they all have in common? Are they all in the same profession? Are they in the same job? Are they in the same county? If they have the same legal issue, I'd work off of that. Once you get through that thought process, then you'll have an idea of what possibilities there are. If you're an estate planning lawyer dealing with people worth $10 million or more, I don't think you should run Google Ads, but you could probably do longer videos. You can certainly do blog posts. You can certainly have the very nice professionally written type stuff, because those people are going to really want to be savvy and listen to who's doing the work as opposed to just competing on price. So once you have that person in mind, you have your different potential strategies up there, then I would flip it to, what do you like doing? Do you like doing video? Do you like writing? Do you like going out for lunch with people? Do you like playing golf or going to sporting events and whatnot? That's what I would look at. Like, what's the Venn diagram overlap between what I think would get clients and what I actually enjoy, and focus on that overlap in the middle.
In the second clip, Jordan talks about why it's important that attorneys own their shtick. They own who they are. They own their personal differences, and why that's so important when it comes to marketing and business development.
I want to empower anybody watching or listening to this. If you are doing things a different way, maybe that's you look a certain way, you act a certain way that's different, you market in a certain way that's different. I want to empower you to have the moral imperative to tell more people about it, so that we're not all sitting there like me, the idiot 8 years ago, thinking that was the only way to get cases. Like, the louder that we can all be about our thing, about our take, about our shtick, the more we can help people understand that they need to find their thing, their shtick, whatever it is that works for them. There's a million different ways to get cases, and a million different ways will work for the right person, the right lawyer, the right client, the right practice area. So please, please, please don't try to be me. Don't try to be Wayne, but don't try to be the person, 20, 30 years older than us who did it the only way that they could. Find the one that makes the most sense for you and for your ideal client, and tell everybody about it. Empower other people to do this.
You can pretty much figure out the takeaways here from this episode with Jordan based on those clips. One, it's important to inject your personality into your content marketing and thought leadership marketing efforts to avoid coming across as vanilla like every other attorney. If you are not remembered, you're going to be forgotten. People don't care to remember the services and companies that kind of blend into the wallpaper. They remember the companies and organizations and services that stand out from the crowd. You can, as an attorney, stand out. You need not violate every ethical rule. You need not be distasteful. You need not be obnoxious to stand out. You can just have a bit more of a personality publicly than most other lawyers, and you will stand out from the crowd, guaranteed. Second takeaway, that niching can help you become the person, the lawyer who does what you do for the people for whom you do it. You can become known as the family law attorney in your area. You could be known as the car accident guy, the truck accident woman, the medical malpractice person by niching down and talking about it constantly, marketing for it constantly, and making it very clear that this is the one thing you do. Now, of course, you can do other things, but you're not going to market for those other things. You're going to do the one thing that you want more of and niche down and become known as the person who does it. And that will help you separate yourself from the pack as well, especially if you've got your own personality you're injecting. Now you've doubled the pleasure of both niching down and injecting your own personality into marketing for that niche. And with that, that's a wrap for this Lowdown episode. I'd encourage you to check out the episodes I covered in this episode in their entirety. If you'd like to hear more about the topics raised or the advice given by any of my guests, obviously you can find the original episodes in this podcast feed. I'd appreciate your feedback on the format of this episode. We've done a number of these lowdown episodes, these recap episodes. Do you like them? Do you hate them? What's good about them? What's bad about them? What could we change? What should we stop doing? I'd appreciate your reviews on your podcast platform of choice. It helps us get discovered by more people interested in best practices for content marketing and thought leadership marketing in the legal industry. I'd appreciate any candidates that you want to offer up as potential guests for the podcast because of what they're doing with their content marketing or thought leadership marketing in the legal industry. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Legally Contented. I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Legally Contented.